have 8 practices here in Columbia, and the first 4 really, no emphasis at all on South Florida, just working on South Carolina, and really fundamentals and physicality and the things we need to do to continue to improve our team. And on Monday, we'll start our prep for South Florida and practice through Thursday morning, have a normal game week to get the game plan completely done here in Columbia before we get to the bowl site, and we'll get 4 practices in Birmingham. So that'll be a good preparation and to take a step forward for our guys. Exams this past week, our guys did extremely well. Everybody's ready to go for the bowl games. We're excited about that. Maria Hickman and her staff do a fantastic job in the Dodie Anderson Academic Enrichment Center and just do a fantastic job. We had 10 guys graduate. We had the ring ceremony last Monday, so that was exciting for them. I want to congratulate Sean Elliott for the head coaching job at Georgia State. He had 7 great years here at South Carolina, and I appreciate him helping us in our transition moving forward. And Cedric Williams, former Gamecock, who was working in the weight room, he hired him as an offensive line coach. So that's awesome as well. I'm really happy for Ced. I will not hire an offensive line coach till after the first of the year. We're still talking to some people and want to make sure we take our due diligence to hire the best fit for us. We don't go live recruiting again until January 12th, so there's no reason to rush into anything right now. In the meantime, for the bowl game only, John Latina is going to coach our offensive line. Obviously, a history with Kurt Roper at Mississippi and at Duke University, and a guy that I've got tremendous respect for in this profession. And being the defensive coordinator at LSU and going against Ole Miss all those years, they were extremely well coached and fundamental. And he's been out this fall, and just kind of I felt like you look at the secondary and offensive line are 2 positions, and quarterback 3 positions that you better have somebody that's coached the positions and understands what they're doing. You can't just fit somebody in there and hope it goes well. So John's experience of over 30 years, 37 years to be exact, certainly we're gonna enjoy his experience in helping us through the bowl game. So yesterday was the junior college signing day. Keyshawn Nixon from Arizona Western, a defensive back that we're really excited about. Him being a part of our program, and Caleb Chalmers from Northwest Mississippi signed as well. So those 2 guys will make our football team better moving forward. South Florida's got an outstanding football team. I know Coach Taggart left to go to Oregon, but he left all those players in Tampa. And they're a talented football team. They got really good team speed. Quentin Flowers, Marlon Mack, Rodney Adams. They scored over 30 points in every game this year. They're very athletic and fast on defense, so we got our work cut out for us. But looking forward to getting practice started today, and I'll open up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Dave?
Will, in this downtime after exams and everything, has anybody else come to you about talking transfer, maybe wish to go somewhere else?
I talked to the team after Sunday after our last game and said if you want a new start or a fresh start or something, come see me, and no one came to see me. Other than Lorenzo moving forward, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Any of those new guys join you for bowl practice? How does that work? Will you have any
possibly
roster additions?
I can't really comment other than Keyshawn and Caleb possibly. And if they don't play in an all-star game and they are accepted to school possibly for a mid-year graduate, they could practice with us, but I can't comment until they're here.
Would that be something you would ideally want to happen?
Absolutely. Just to see the tempo of practice, to get to know the teammates better, it's a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm.
Well, how excited are you how excited do you think these guys are to get back on the field, knowing the totality of what you accomplished the second half of the season?
Well, I think, again, you can feel the buzz in the building with the coaches today, and I'm looking forward to we start at 1:30 with the team meeting to seeing the players. I think that our guys did a really good job with exams. We're proud of that, and they got some time to regroup and refocus a little bit. We got a couple workouts in the week before exams, so they've had a little time to excel and get ready for this run right here against a very good football team. So we need to prepare extremely well.
Well, there's such a difference between obviously the regular season and then postseason, and the time that you have to prep for your opponent. Do you like that, or do you find yourself sort of getting a little anxious and saying, "All right, let's get here. We want to play"?
Well, I think that you've got to be careful that you don't your players can become a little stale with prepping for an opponent too much. No different than the first game of the season when you're coming out of training camp. So I think it's important that, you know, we're not going to even talk about South Florida till Monday. As far as our preparation is concerned, as a staff, we have game planned them starting this past Monday when we all started back in the office, and some quality control work on ourselves and also on them. So we'll continue to work on that, and the game plan needs to be done here. When you get to the bowl site, there's a lot of distractions and things, and you want to be able just to refine things when you get to the bowl site. So, you know, we'll spend a normal game week starting Monday on South Florida for our players.
I guess you haven't spent much time around Jake since the Clemson game, so you'll maybe have to speculate. But do you worry about him bouncing back from what was not his best performance coming out? Do you as a freshman, do you want to see how he responds?
I mean, I haven't seen him at all, really, because, you know, we were gone for 2 weeks, and then this past week our guys have been off. So other than the official visit weekend, I saw him a little bit there, but he'll be fine.
Given his history with the knees, both knees, is that something that you have to monitor more closely, or once they're fixed, and you move on?
I mean, modern day technology is pretty neat.
Yeah. So you don't have any concern. You don't have any.
Those doctors all think they're really good.
Well, you said this first part of bowl practice is about South Carolina and improving that. Is that any different than you might normally do it? Because so many young guys, because you have so many young guys trying to.
No, it's all the same. You know, it's really, football's a developmental game, and you really got to work on the basic fundamentals. And we do during game week. We go good on good in game week, so that doesn't change a lot either. But there'll be no scout work and no preparation for an opponent, nothing like that. It's just all about us improving and getting better in pad level and hand placement and, you know, strike and play. I mean, that's what we need to improve on.
Coach, with what happened with Louisville and Wake Forest, what's your reaction to it? And have you talked with your staff at all? Do you feel like you need to be more cautious with what happened with Wake
Yeah,
Forest?
to keep Steve Fink out of the building. You never know with this guy now. He's a little, you gotta watch out. Him sending some stuff and faxing and stuff. No, I don't really have any comment on it, you know, to be honest with you.
After you guys did that period of the quality control and self-study, were there any bigger things that you sort of popped or you sort of took away from getting that chance to take a second look?
Well, I mean, I think that, could be a long answer, but I think in all three phases there's things that we can improve on, you know, and I think probably the most glaring issue is the ability to run the ball consistently and the ability to stop the run consistently on defense. Those are the two things that we've got to continue to work on and improve on. And that's something that's a huge emphasis for me moving into practice today.
Will, you said right after the Clemson game it would take a while to get over that. Was that like a few days a while or a few months? Or, I mean, what did you mean by that?
No, it still burns, you know. That's part of it.
And you also said, like, recruiting, I think, to paraphrase, was one of the main ways to improve. But
Right.
what about as a coaching staff? What did you guys learn from that, and how have you reflected on how you might have been able to do things differently?
Well, I look at the totality of the season, not one game, you know, and that's kind of how I look at it. And again, the most glaring issue that we had this year, and there was a bunch. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, our ability to be able to run the football consistently against good people and our ability to stop the run on defense, we got to get better.
Offensively with that run game, does that mean you consider changing your basic approach to the run game, or you need to figure out how to get the guys that you have or get guys who can do what you want to do better?
We need to improve and get better. You know, schematically, you know, we're running an inside zone, we run an outside, we run a down and around scheme, we run a counter scheme and a power scheme. Most everybody in college football is running a lot of the same things. We need to improve on how we're doing it.
Does that start in the interior of the offensive line? Was that the biggest issue this year?
I think there was multiple issues. We played 3 different quarterbacks, 2 of them being true freshmen. I mean, there's multiple issues involved with it, and we need to improve on all 3 areas.
Having gone through some coaching changes before bowl games, with USF specifically, how do you think that can affect them not having their head coach?
Quentin Flowers is still there.
Do you find that it can, though, at all affect the team not having?
I think it's a
coach?
distraction if you allow it to be. And Willie's a really good football coach and a guy that I've got a lot of respect for. He's hired a really good staff down there, and I know those guys are going to want to impress Charlie Strong. You know, so they want to go practice well, and I'm sure Charlie will be watching practice every day. So there's a lot of motivation still involved in that, and the fact is, you know, they're not going to change their identity in a couple weeks preparation for a bowl game about who they are and what they do. I'm sure there'll be some new wrinkles, just like we'll have some new wrinkles. But, you know, as far as, you know, philosophically of what they've done offensively, defensively, and special teams, they are who they are, and they've got a good staff. And Coach Wiest and the guys that are still coaching there do a good job.
Why has Darius English been successful this year?
I think, you know, first of all, I think he practices at a high level. He really does. I think we've done a good job. Mike Peterson's done a really good job of, you know, narrowing down pass rush-wise some of the things that he does, because he is a guy that does a nice job with his hands in pass rush. He keeps his feet moving. He's got a good takeoff. So all of those things that I think we've done, he has done a very good job of narrowing down and doing, instead of a lot of things okay, doing very few things really well. And that's what I've seen as much as anything. But I would go back to practice with Darius. He practices hard. He goes out and practices the right way. And, again, going out of spring because of his hip injury, I had no idea that he would even contribute other than maybe situational pass rusher. But he's been good in a lot of situations for us this year. But I'd go back to practice would be the most important thing that I've seen this guy do every day.
Before this staff got here, he always was trying to add weight and could never seem to bulk up. Has that been an issue? Is his leanness an issue for him?
I think in some, you know, rundown situations, especially in matchups, we try to play him a little bit more of a 3-4 stand-up role.
Because of that size?
Right. Just to give him a better, but we're not asking him to two-gap anybody. We're asking him to set edges of the defense and in those situations. So I think a little bit maybe I can't comment on the previous because I don't know, but for what we've asked him to do, he's been very effective.
Will, did you guys elect permanent captains after the season was over?
Yeah, we did at the banquet. It was Hayden Hurst, T.J. Holloman, Perry Orth, and Quay Lewis. Yeah.
Will the JUCO guys and players to be named later, will they be allowed, or will you take them to Birmingham with the team?
No,
for
you
practice?
can't go to the bowl game.
Okay.
They just get to practice.
Okay. And Keeson and Caleb, could you maybe share some thoughts on what makes them two guys you think make y'all better?
Well, athletically, you know, from a speed standpoint, both run extremely well. Both have really good ball skills down the field as far as playing and judging the ball. Both can finish plays down the field. So I just think from a speed standpoint, both of them have shown to be solid tacklers on tape. The physicality of the game they embrace. So I think in all areas they make us better.
With USF, what are the things that Flowers does so well, and what does that offense do so well overall?
Well, I think they run the ball extremely well. That's the one thing that you see. They've got all the outlets off the run game, so if you load the box, they're able to get the ball in the perimeter. But they're a fast team. They've got really good speed. They run extremely well. They create a lot of space plays. They create a lot of one-on-one situations where you've got to tackle very good, skilled guys in space. So, and Flowers is first thing, I know him from high school. He's a competitor. He's got a competitive edge about himself that you really appreciate as a coach. And he's got the it factor as far as the intangible things that you want your quarterback to have.
Well, I know you had like a way of preparing for bowls at Florida, but can you just say like what coaches and what places that you've been sort of molded the way that you like to prepare for a bowl game?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people do it different ways, and I'm not saying that there's one right way to do it. When I was with Nick Saban and Mac Brown, they were very similar the way we approached it. We gave the players time off, and then we had successive practices working on ourselves and then getting ready for the bowl game. And a lot of people continue to practice through the month of December. I think that becomes monotonous for the players after a while, and it gets to where they don't want to go to a bowl game if they're going to practice the whole month of December. So we try to condense it and have it treated like a spring ball type atmosphere where we're going to get 12, 13 practices, and that's about as many practices we got preparing for a national championship game. There's only so much you can do, and you get back in the swing of it pretty quickly of knocking the rust off in your third or fourth practice. You're getting back to where you should be.
What was the catalyst for Chris Lamons to go from getting yanked against Mississippi State maybe to, I guess he was your most productive defensive player, is that right? Mm-hmm. What's that journey like?
I think that to play defense and you got to tackle. And in the Mississippi State game, there were some missed tackles by him that were unacceptable for me. So that was the issue there. But when you know that a young man can play better than what he put on tape, because at the end of the day, as coaches and players, the tape's our resume. We addressed those situations with him, and he responded the right way. Instead of going into a shell or not responding and practicing the right way or blaming the coach, he took it on himself, which is what good players do. They take it on themselves. They take it personal. And he came out and understood the demands that we had for him to improve as a player. So I credit Chris for that.
And to switch gears a little bit, what does Jamarcus King need to do to bounce back from what's been kind of a rough stretch to end the year after a high mid-season?
I think the biggest thing is to get stronger. I mean, I think that's evident that, when you go against the bigger receivers, you can't get bemmed around. And he's got to continue to increase his physical stature. But that's something that's been said to him since day one. Sometimes it takes a tough night to teach somebody to understand they got to get stronger. So that would be the first thing. But, again, he's going to continue to improve as far as, his physicality, his strength, and his awareness, of playing defensive back against elite players.
He's still relatively young in that because he only played defensive back.
Played receiver in high school.
Right. And then JUCO 1 year, and this was his second year.
That's it.
Is that obvious as you coach him that he is still?
No, I think he's got really good instincts, and I think that's something we saw in the recruiting process, that he's a very instinctive player. But a guy that, again, like you said, is very green in some areas, that's going to continue to get better with the more reps. And this week will be huge for him. I remember my first year at Florida, Lucas Purifoy was primarily a special teams player for us. Came out and ended up starting a bowl game for us. Didn't start a game all year for us. But he came out in bowl practice, and he was one of our best corners coming out of bowl practice, and he started the bowl game for us.
In your experience, have you had many high school guys be early enrollees that come in for bowl practice, and how heavily involved do you seek to get those guys right away?
As far as, have we done it before?
Yeah, many guys in your experience.
Yeah, it's been a handful.
Yeah.
It's been a handful, and they just, I think it's a win-win. I mean, you get to come in and see the tempo of practice, which that's always a little bit of an issue. It's a change. You get to meet the players, so your first time on campus, you're not trying to meet everybody. You get to be a part of that, because really bowl practice is a lot like training camp. School's not going on. You're focused in on the football team, practice and preparation and those sort of things. So I think it's a really good experience for a student athlete.
Will, what's Sky's status right now, and is there any chance he might be able to do a couple of things?
He's been cleared for non-contact, but we're not going to practice him right now. That's not, but he was cleared, I don't know, about a month ago to lift, fully lift, all the axle loading and stuff. So he's been able to do all those things for about a month. And so he's working hard and, looking forward to getting back at it.
He probably wants to go out there.
Yeah, he does, but that's not worth any of that. But everything is healing extremely well. He's fine.
Well, did you see Snoop Dogg tweet at Kazion? And would you ever want him hanging around practice?
Sure. Come on, man. Big fan. Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Will you spend any
You a
of
Snoop Dogg fan, Josh?
a little? I mean, I don't know the full catalog probably, but there are a few that I think.
Got him on an iPod for you. It'd be good.
All right, yeah, pass that along. Specifically with Sky, the plan still, he's still coming back next year. That's still his intention. You still. Will you spend any time looking at the younger linebackers or even other positions?
Yeah, it's like today, the seniors aren't practicing the first two practices. They're not even going to go on the field. We're going to lift them and run them, make sure we're in good shape, and get them back in the swing of it. Saturday and Sunday, they'll they're going to practice individual and get knocks the rust off a little bit, and they'll be full board back out at Monday. So it's all about the emphasis of the guys coming back these first couple practices.
As you, in your mind, start looking ahead at linebacker, T.J. Brunson, I guess, has played some this year. Is there anybody else there that you see down the lineup that you say, okay,
Sherrod
let's take
Pittman's a
look at
guy
him?
that needs to continue to come on for us, you know. Bryson Allen Williams is a guy that needs to take the next step as a player to be a more consistent guy that's had done some really good things for us this year, done some really nice things in pass rush, has given us a lot of different variety as far as snaps and different things he can do. And then we got to count on some young guys to come in and play. Right now, that's where we are.
So you expect some newcomers to play?
Absolutely. Yep. They better get ready.
Have you been able to get any reports on like freshmen who are redshirting or guys who are not playing this year, maybe who've taken big jumps in the weight room or have kind of progressed?
Sure.
through
I mean, we practice those guys on Sunday night, and we that's the, football's a developmental game. Those guys get an hour of coaching after we get done with the guys that played a bunch of snaps on Saturday. We get those guys out of the building on Sunday out of the indoor, and we go practice those guys and coach those guys. I've seen some really nice jumps as far as Cedarius Hutcherson's a guy that I think's made some tremendous strides throughout the year. Stephon Taylor's a guy that's done some nice things. Aaron Thompson has done some nice things for us. Continue to progress. Tyson Williams has had a great fall. Randricus Davis will be back practicing. As far as the injury report, we don't really have anybody, but Randricus will not play in the game because he's going to take a medical red shirt, but a guy that's back healthy and excited about him and his future. Evan Henson had a really good fall for us. So all of those guys that, they've done a nice job in the weight room. We got a good young group that I'm excited about. Maybe they didn't play this year, but guys that can take the step forward, yeah.
Will, with Evan Henson, is the plan to release him to basketball right after the bowl game or like the day
He's
after?
been with them, the last 2 weeks and working with those guys. And I know Frank's, excited about some things he can. I'm going to work with him a little bit on the 2-guard, so he'll be ready to go. Whatever a 2-guard is. Now, if maybe a 3-guard or something, I don't know. He started talking the other night, and I didn't know what he was talking about. So I just.
Have the early enrollees always been able to participate in the bowl practices?
Yeah, some guys have choose not to play in an all-star game because they would like to do this. If they play in an all-star game, they can't do it. So their high school career has to be over, and that constitutes the all-star game. They have to be accepted to school. So I mean, there's some stipulations that go into it, and I've just been with some guys, and we've got a young man that didn't want to play in an all-star game. He'd rather just come here and practice. So that's his personal decision.
I know that John Latine has kind of been a mentor of Kurt's, but what's your personal experience with him prior to this move?
Just admired the job he did in the offensive line at Ole Miss, and then studying Duke tape and hiring Kurt, and then Kurt referencing him as a guy that just the respect of, just more than anything, respect from afar as far as the kind of ball coach he is and type of person he is.
When you put together your list of this is what I want in an offensive line coach, what's first? Maybe first and second.
Well, I don't know that you could say just one or two things. I think there's multiple things, but a guy that, obviously has some exposure to what we do and how we do things. A guy that has a proven track record of development at the position, because that's huge at that position especially. A guy that's going to be firm but fair with the players. So I think all of those things to me, fundamentally, the type fundamental football coach we want to have that's a good fit on our staff. So I think there's a lot of factors involved in it, not one or two.
After you guys kind of got to the self-study, did your offense and defense at the end of the year have the identities you thought they would have at the beginning, or did those kind of evolve and shift as the season went on?
Well, I think that we certainly struggled, especially maybe early offensively, with an identity of what we wanted to do. We didn't do much very well. I think we narrowed some things down after the open week and got better in some areas. But I think we have a lot of improvement to do on both sides of the ball. And, you continue to go back and, try and identify the things your players can do well, and that's what we'll continue to do moving forward. And the good thing offensively is, as far as, full-time players, Mason Zandy's the only guy we're losing. And I think we're adding some good players that were redshirted this year and some guys in the signing class that I'm excited about. So I think we'll take some steps forward. Defensively, you got to replace Quay and Darius, two very productive players. TJ and John, two very productive linebackers for us. So we've got some holes to fit on defense.
Kind of along those lines with special teams, having to
Yep.
replace your punter, kicker,
And
or snapper.
Mhm.
Have you ever been a part of a team that's like that, and how nervous are you?
Well,
looking at it?
Today will be an interesting day for some of those guys to be able to perform. We're going to have a 1-minute situation at practice today to put, a kicker under some duress to go tie or win the game. So, that's try and create those situations as much as we can, knowing that Elliot's not going to be there and Sean's not going to be there and Drew's not going to be there. So we're going to certainly over these next 4 or 5 practices really work with some of the young kickers and some situational work.
Well, how important is a bowl game when it comes to marketing the brand of a program, not only nationally, but the location of the bowl? In your experience, do you find that when you go into a city or state for a
Sure.
bowl game, you get more interest? Do you get a recruiting bump from that area?
Well, I think, we've got 8 players on the team from the state of Alabama, and there's no question that, you get some exposure in that state, and there's really good football players and great high school football coaches in the state of Alabama, but, it helps to win, too. So that's the most important thing.
Anything else for Coach?
All righty, thank you.